Hello, Beyond 80% listeners. This is your host, Ryan Olekson, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. It's wild to think we've already released 10 episodes since launching in April. Instead of bringing on a guest, I want to take a pause here to reflect, to share what I've learned, and maybe to connect some dots between the conversations we've had so far. Because these weren't just interviews, they've been lessons. They've challenged what I thought I knew about how life works, and they've made me rethink things I used to accept without question. Being on this side of the microphone, asking the questions, listening to the stories, it changes the way you look at the world. And when I take a step back and look at all 10 episodes together, there are a few big ideas that keep coming up, patterns that I think are worth carrying forward. The first thing I've noticed is this. Real change starts on the inside. And I don't mean that in some fluffy, motivational quote kind of way. I mean it literally. From these conversations, one constant theme has been that inner exploration is what leads to outer transformation. I used to think big change began with something visible, a career shift, a big move, a dramatic life decision, but again and again, I heard the opposite. For Tony, losing his mobility wasn't just a physical challenge. It forced him to completely rethink his perspective on life. And for Joe, taking his cancer treatment into his own hands started with a decision to trust himself, even when it meant going against the doctor's credentials and the standard medical playbook. And here's something else I didn't expect to see so clearly. Sometimes change comes in our darkest moments. When we're faced with fear and pain from the worst seasons of our lives, that's often where the light first breaks through. These guests didn't end their stories at the bottom. They found a way to rise and come back stronger, more genuine, more themselves than ever. The hardest moments can create the biggest impacts for positive, everlasting change, which naturally leads to the second thing that I've noticed. If transformation often starts within, then the next big step is questioning what's already living in there. The beliefs, the assumptions, the truths you've been carrying around. We all have them. Beliefs we didn't choose, inherited from family, culture, education, the media. Talking with people like Nahal, who helps clients break emotional barriers through strength training, and Alexandria, who guides people in self-led healing work, reminded me how powerful it is to pause and ask, is this narrative actually mine? Do I believe this? Or did I just accept it because I was told it was true? And this goes beyond what you've been told growing up. It's about the world you live and operate in every single day. These systems we all consent to, the ones we accept as just the way things are, aren't always the best avenues for us or for others. Just because many people follow a certain path doesn't mean you have to. I'm learning to challenge those thoughts in myself, to pause and consider whether the way I'm operating, whether it's the education system, the financial system, or even as small as my daily interactions or parenting choices, actually makes sense to me, or if I'm just doing it because it's expected. And the truth is, there's never just one way to do things. There are multiple options out there, and it's okay to choose something different if it works better for you or for someone else. And when you start seeing things this way, you can't help but notice how much of life is shaped by systems, which brings me to the third takeaway. It's not exactly news that healthcare, media, and the financial system have flaws, but hearing people who've worked outside or around these systems talk about them made it personal. Veronica shared how prevention often takes a backseat to treatment and medicine, keeping people dependent instead of well. Tim O'Hearn pulled back the curtain on how social media is built to keep us addicted and emotionally reactive. And other guests have shown how industries quietly profit from keeping us in cycles of need and dependency. What I'm starting to see more clearly is just how much of the world we live in is designed to keep us dependent, distracted, and defined by systems that don't always serve us. We're taught to measure our worth in money, titles, and status, and to believe there's no real way to operate outside of that. We're nudged to consume, to give our attention and our money to corporations and billionaires who benefit from keeping us in the loop. The shift for me has been realizing that it doesn't have to be that way. These systems are not who we are, and we are not powerless in the face of them. We can choose not to give them as much of ourselves. That might look like buying less from companies whose values don't align with ours. It might mean stepping away from the outrage cycle instead of feeding it. It might simply be deciding to put more care, more attention, and more presence into the people right in front of us. Because change doesn't always start with protests or big public stance. It starts with seeing the truth of what's around us and then quietly, deliberately choosing to live differently inside of it. Those small, deliberate choices are what create the first ripples. So those are the patterns I've been seeing. Change starting within, questioning what you've been handed, and not waiting for the system to fix itself before you start living differently. As we head into the next 10 episodes, I hope you'll keep exploring what's beneath the surface with me. Keep questioning, keep listening, keep going. And if something here has made you think differently, feel something deeply, or explore a topic more fully, consider sharing it. A few listeners have told me that passing along an episode opened up conversations they never expected, or gave someone else the push they needed to take a step they've been holding back on. Sometimes all it takes is hearing the right thing at the right time. Thanks for listening and for staying curious, questioning deeply, and exploring what's possible. Because the more of us who do that, the more we begin to shape something better. I'm your host, Ryan Olekson, and this is Beyond 80%.